The benefit of a small space is that you're actually able to do that on more of a budget. You've not got endless spaces to sort of decorate.
We wanted to fit a lot of equipment into this kitchen, so it sort of became almost like an equation.
Sort of create quite a decadent feel, and we like to think of it as like a sort of jewel box.
I would say, small space, you should embrace the darkness. Hello, I'm Martin Brudnizki.
I'm Jonathan Brooke, and this is How We Live with Style.
We wanted this to feel like a hotel room in London, completely immersive, completely draped in fabric, because that's sort of the softness of that is what we like. One of our big moves was to move the doorway behind me, and basically it was on the right-hand side here. And the whole idea was to get connection between the window at the front and the window at the back, to get the light flowing through. As well, when you sit on the sofa, you will sort of look back to the window and you have the church. And when you lie on the bed, you look through this window and you have the garden square.
So because it's such a small space, we thought we'd sort of embrace the coziness really, and sort of quite richly upholster the walls in this kind of moire silk. Sort of create quite a decadent feel, quite a small space. I mean, we like to think of it as like a sort of jewel box.
But I think as well, living in London is a modern city, and we are at the moment in 2026, so you sort of want some modernity into it in terms of the objects, in terms of the art, hence this sort of mix of this more classical detailing of this room with the cornice, the architraves, the classical skirting, but then you sort of have that very geometric pattern, fitted carpet. That sort of gives it a sort of sense of like today. I think it's sort of important that if you have a small flat that's divided up in a series of spaces, pick like one color story, like one color theme. It could be 2 tones of a color. It will make the spaces feel bigger. I have this idea in my head always that yellow is like sunshine in a box. So that's sort of where we started. And so it became about yellow and terracotta. So the main sitting room is yellow with terracotta piping. And then the kitchen is painted terracotta and has yellow detailing. And then the bathroom has yellow tiles. So it's this sort of flip-flopping between yellow and terracotta.
In a lot of our work, we like the idea of fantasy. And I think for a lot of our clients, we create a sort of a fantasy world for them. And that's sort of, to a certain extent, how we like to live ourselves. I think after a day in London where you've come off the tube, we just quite like the idea of escaping into our own little world. And I think the benefit of a small space is that you're actually able to do that on more of a budget, because you've not got endless spaces to sort of decorate.
One day I came here to stay the night, and Jonathan was in the country, and I walked in, and on the floor appeared 2 Edwardian mallet decoy ducks that I hadn't seen before, and I thought that was sort of really funny. They sort of just appeared out of nowhere. I think Jonathan and I have very similar taste and have a style that we've sort of been together now for sort of 13 years, have sort of developed. Beyond this grand fantastical curtain lies the kitchen. It's just an off-the-shelf standard kitchen, but we customized it. So we sort of got this beautiful little trim detail that we painted yellow. We put this little crown detail on at the top, just to add some sort of little fun, fantastical elements and detail to it. And we did it as well. You can see here around the door panels below the counter. We bought this trim from a company called George Jackson that we work with a lot, and they do like amazing trims. They do incredible cornicing and all sort of very decorative elements, and they've been around since the time of John Soane. He used them, so of course we want to use them too. We wanted to fit a lot of equipment into this kitchen, so it sort of became almost like an equation, dimensional equation. One of the first decisions that we had to make was, do we really need a 4-burner hob? And the answer was, of course, no, because actually we have never used more than 2 plates at the same time. The next thing was actually to place the sink in the corner. so that we could fit a dishwasher. Both Jonathan and I hate washing dishes, so it is crucial. The main investment for this kitchen was the marble. The marble top and the full marble splashback will then give you this sort of sense of a very customized kitchen. As a visual divide between the sitting room and the kitchen, we have this curtain and this sort of quite fantastical helmet, slightly Gothic sort of inspired. And it was very important to me that when you come into the sitting room and you look towards the windows, this curtain will sort of screen the kitchen and it has sort of a reveal as you move into the space. Secondly as well, if you have friends around for dinner, it's just sort of like lovely to sort of unhook this and pull it. As a contrast to the very light and golden sitting room, we wanted to embrace the darkness with our bedroom and go a bitter dark chocolate. So we upholstered the walls in this space in this beautiful mohair velvet. And it's glorious, especially how it then contrasts with the beautiful gilded picture frames. I would say a small space, which is north facing, you should embrace the darkness and you should go darker. And especially if it's a bedroom, it sort of creates a sort of incredible coziness that you sort of want. What we wanted to achieve with the bed in our bedroom was like a dual use. So a bed for night and a day bed for the day. Hence we covered it in this glorious fabric. When you sort of come home at the end of the day from work, you can just throw yourself on the bed and not worrying about the sheets getting filthy. So in both spaces, the sitting room as well as this bedroom, we used these two Murano glass chandelier, this Borsani one and the one in the sitting room, which is the Venini. And it would give that sort of level of glamour without being sort of oppressive.
So this is the one proper room in the flat. And I think when we sat down, we just wanted this to be like the best sitting room we could find. A really cozy space that we could come to after a day of work and relax in. Within that, we designed it like a sitting room, so it's not a room that's doing too much. So we didn't put a dining table in here, for example, or a desk or other things. We were like, let's just create a really nice sitting room, and then within that, the pieces can be multifunctional. Even this sort of tall boy had this little shelf, which is quite handy. Sometimes, a little secret, we sort of sit here, have dinner, and then we put like a laptop on here if we watch it, like a TV, for our TV dinners. I started life working as an art advisor before stepping more into interiors. And I definitely think I approach artwork, not curation, from an interiors perspective. And a big part of that is the frames. I'm very drawn to a frame. And the whole idea of how the frame can connect the artwork to the interior. There's a whole theory of something called the paragon, where it's like, is the frame a piece of the artwork or is it a piece of the interior? And I see it as a bridge between the two, really. I think people shouldn't be afraid to like reframe artworks that they buy. I think it really creates like a nice decorative statement, and it can really like elevate the artwork that you're getting. So my top tip would be that if you see something you like, don't be afraid to reframe it. And there's so many amazing framers you can work with. This was just a framer I know in Milan who creates these wonderful sort of like hand-carved pieces still. Just sort of really like elevates and creates something quite special in the artwork. And then when it comes to photography as well, you know, often you think of like framing with photography quite a bit more simpler. But just we put like a little silver chrome sort of detail trim around the photograph, which just sort of makes it stand out a bit more, kind of makes it shimmer a bit, which is quite nice. Thank you for joining us today.
I hope you have enjoyed our tour of our humble abode.
If you want to see more, please go ahead and subscribe to the Sunday Times Style YouTube channel.